just share with you something that, this morning I was working with a young man, and we were talking about the vitality meter. And that, imagine there's a meter from 1 to 10, and you're only at a 4 or a 5 vitality. You're never going to see the 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 issues until you get more vital. And that as your vitality builds and those other issues come forward, I said there's one really good thing to know, and that is that you have the vitality to face it. In the scriptures it says God won't put more on us than we're able to bear. And it's the same thing as that meter. If you faced a deeper level of an issue and you weren't vital enough to handle it, it could actually kill you. So you know that if that issue has come forward, that you are able to deal with it. You're able to handle it. You've got what it takes. And then I also said, you survived the event. Maybe at the time you weren't sure if you were going to survive it, but you survived the event and the emotions that went in at the time that it happened. And on the way out, it symptomatically might look the same and feel the same, but you will survive. It's a memory. It's not the actual event. And you'll survive it this time, going back out, and you'll survive facing those memories. And then we talked about symptoms of healing, and that sometimes, when issues happen and, we manifest something physically, and then as you're healing and that's going back out of your system, symptoms might look the same. And his eyes got really big, and he's like, oh. He said, right now I am dealing with some issues that happened when I was 6 years old, and I developed chickenpox about that time, and also they treated me for asthma. And going through that over this past year, he said that, not knowing what was going on, but he got shingles, and he also ended up over at the hospital with breathing issues. And so when he looked at that and was like, oh, okay, the old issue is being dealt with, and so the old symptoms are coming back in sort of the same form, a little bit different. And so it kind of like gave him hope that, okay, I can handle this. I can go through this. So just wanted to throw that out. I thought it was an interesting conversation this morning, and Michael has now joined us, so I'm going to say welcome, Michael.
Well, thank you, dear heart, and welcome, everybody. And you're right on with that, and one of the biggest challenges of people actually doing healing work is to face and go back through those energetic patterns. Even when people become aware that that's what's happening, oftentimes people will opt for a drug because it's like, I don't want to feel this, I don't want to deal with it. It's like the first time around, they lived in denial because can't handle it. And so to me, one of the reasons we do this show, one of the reasons we've been doing it at least an hour a day for the last 12 years, we're into our 13th year, is to help people to build the brain cells to understand what's going on so that willingness prevails rather than, oh, these symptoms are going on and I don't want to deal with this, I don't want to feel this. Well, we understand when you were 6 you didn't want to feel it and you didn't feel it and you didn't want to deal with it, so what happened? Well, you found somebody who would give you a substance that would anesthetize you and suppress those symptomatic energies. I'd offer that's the primary cause of degenerative diseases. And the primary healing of degenerative diseases is the willingness to deal with those energetic patterns and remove them, because they literally express in the cell as chemistry. They're shown that, if you go to the opening words in the book of John where they understood this whole process in amazing clarity. And you hear the opening words in the book of John where they tell us, it says, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word became flesh. In Aramaic it says, in the beginning was the mind energy, and the mind energy became flesh. And then go on YouTube and do a search for Bruce Lipton. And what Bruce is showing is that when you think a thought, that thought becomes a molecule in your structure, the non-physical world becoming what we call physical. Now, all it is changing its rate of vibration. Plug Einstein in there. On such things as matter, we've been all wrong. What we have heretofore called matter is energy. Energy whose vibrations have been so lowered as to be perceptible to the senses. So a thought isn't perceptible to our so-called physical senses, but you lower it and it shows up in physiology as a molecule. You call that molecule a neuropeptide. Then what Bruce will explain as a cell biologist is that neuropeptide is going to circulate around in your structure. It's going to find a cell with a receptor site that matches. It's going to land on that cell. Now what they're saying is that the cell then replicates that. I don't believe the cell replicates it. That comes from a material biased mindset that this is physical. But when you realize it's not physical, it's energy, when that neuropeptide, which is nothing but a set of frequencies, it's just like a signal from channel 4 coming into your TV antenna. Does the TV replicate that signal? No, the TV decodes. The signal enters the TV, is decoded and reflects in the TV. The signal comes into the antenna, the receptor site. That's all it is an antenna. And in the same way as with the TV, that energy inserts itself in the cell. And if you were sitting inside the cell watching, imagine you've got a transparent cell, you're microsized, you're inside the cell, and you see this neuropeptide. You hear somebody speaking words, and you watch that set of words. The thought behind that word becomes a neuropeptide. And imagine that you're sitting in that glass cell and you're watching that neuropeptide, and it's going around through the bloodstream, into the lungs, into the heart, into the liver, looking for a receptor site, and all of a sudden, you're in the cell that has a receptor site, and all of a sudden it lands. Now you're watching it, and as it lands on the antenna, just like the signal coming in from channel 4 into the TV, the cell it goes, and it is now what we look at, we call chemistry. The skill we're ultimately inviting people to do is to learn to loose those neuropeptides from their own cellular structure, deal with the energy directly, and remove it from the structure. That's called forgiveness. So it's a skill. It's a skill set we're inviting people to do. One of the ways of developing that skill set, virtually every tool we're talking about is how to do that. And yesterday we went over the first part of the communication, responsibility communication, and I said we'd go over the steps today, so that's where I'm going to head. Unless, Miss Jeannie, you've got a hand up in the phone queue or something happening in the chat room. Sweetie?
It is all quiet here, so go for it.
All quiet on the Western Front, okay. So most people believe the constructs of their perceptual minds. And they think that the source of the construct in their minds is them, outside of them. If you believe that, you're believing a lie. Always. 100% of the time. Even if the information is accurate, it's a lie that the outer world is the source of that. But most people think that with their eyes they're looking out there, and that construct their mind has painted on the inside of their eyeballs that they're looking at is actually out there. And the truth is, the constructs of your mind come from your carbon-based memory. So we're looking to go from projection communication, which is where you use words to try to prove that somebody out there is responsible for what's going on inside of you, to responsibility communication, where you can own, there's something moving in me, and this construct that I have painted unconsciously on the inside of my eyeballs is about me, belongs to me, and if I don't like it, I need to change it. Remember, Yeshua said the power of life and death is in your words. If you use words to put everything you need to deal with outside of you, you will die. Because as long as you believe it's outside of you, you can't go inside of you and change it. And if it's of a dis-ease quality of energy, then it's the stuff death is made of. You remember in the ancient scriptures they said, with man, death began. We made the process up. We are not designed to die. Period. We are not designed to die. The only reason we die is because there are disintegrative frequencies in our cells that are becoming the quote-unquote apparent chemistry in our cells, deteriorating the cells, and the cells die. You get enough cells die and the organs die. You get enough organs dying and you're dead. Your physiology will no longer work. So what we're looking to do is to shift the way people think of what's going on inside of them and get a step closer to the truth. Oh, this which is showing up in my mind is coming from inside of me. So there are 7 steps that I've identified and put together over the years on responsibility communication. Notice that an event happened, and for most people, most of their lives, the perceptual construct of their minds overrode that event, became a substitute for the event that happened in their lives, and people live in this world of internal constructs and speak as though the internal constructs come from outside of them. That's called being a card-carrying member of the one world religion of blame, and virtually every one of us was a member of that religion by the age of 4. One of the things we're working diligently with our granddaughter, who's now 5, is to free her from that religion and to open her to the truth of who she is and how the world works. We still play this game of everybody's got a reality. At 5, she knows it. And we'll pick an object and we'll play with how many realities can we come up with. Oh, I can see this in it. Oh, and she'll say, no, it's this. And I'll say, no, I can see it's that. And, it's part of our assisting her to understand that we can make up all kinds of realities, and any reality that our mind shows us is always true about us, perhaps, and maybe never true about what's going on in the external world. So the first step, remember that all behavior is driven by goals. If your goal is to win, to overpower, to abuse, to convince somebody else, then that goal is going to drive your perceptual mind, and the only data that will be available to you will be the data that will help you in winning, overpowering, abusing, or convincing others. So we're going to shift the language here. The language is key as to how your mind shows you the world. So the responsibility communication starts out with something like, I have an issue that I would like your help in processing. So if I'm communicating, if I've got something going on, a conflict going on with someone, I'm inviting them through my ownership of my issue to support me. That's ultimately what we'll be doing. So it opens with, I have an issue, I'd like your help in processing. And if you're a conscious part of a relationship where this tool is being used, this is where we invite the receiver of the communication to simply be the space. And recognize if you're feeling disconnected, afraid, sad, acknowledge that feeling, and then reach out and physically reconnect. Hold someone's hand, give someone a hug, reconnect before you move on with the process. Then what we want to do is describe what objectively happened. Let's say objectively someone threw a ball. Someone who's watching watched that ball hit somebody in the head, and subjectively the person who has that construct in their mind, says, and you tried to hurt him by hitting him with that ball. Now, that might be true, but it might not. But objectively, what happened was the ball was thrown and hit somebody in the head. That's all you can know about it from an objective perspective. If you get 6 people standing around a car accident, and then you take them into a courtroom, you'll notice that you may wonder whether any 2 of them were at the same accident because their perceptual constructs are so different from each other. So we're looking here in the first step when you're going to step into and you're going to do responsibility communication. What can a camera take a picture of in a single frame? What can a tape recorder record? So the next step is to accept responsibility to identify the event and make sure that you're both speaking about the same incident. You know, if you've ever had the experience of you're talking to somebody about something and on goes the conversation and their conversation's different and there's a conflict, and then a day, a week, a month later you realize you're talking about 2 totally different situations. So you want to take responsibility, make sure that you're both speaking about the same incident and that you're looking at the objective facts of the incident, not your perception of it. So mechanical facts only. Remember that? Who was that used to say, just facts, ma'am? Just facts. Short, sweet, simple, and neutral. That is, if you're just describing the facts, it's free of judgment, it's free of blame, it's free of perceptual content. Now, for most people, that's like an enormous leap from, well, everything that happens in my mind, or pardon me, everything I see in my mind is happening out there. It's not happening in my mind. I'm just seeing it through my eyes. Not true. Make sure when you do this objective observation, you're describing the objective facts, that you make it what we'll call a we event. In other words, include yourself in the description of what happened. Many people will say, well, okay, I'm going to do responsibility communication, and they'll start out, and then when this happened, and then when you, and then when you, and then when you, and then when you, yeah, I can tell you really want to be responsible and heal yourself in this situation as you talk about somebody else the whole time. And if from the age of 4 you've never conceived of, you are a living member, card-carrying member of the one world religion of blame, and it is a huge shift to actually grow into adulthood and become a responsible person. And the place where that has to happen is in your perceptual mind. Now, if your communication partner becomes defensive, you've probably stepped out of the objective realm and are into the subjective. And you're using words to describe your reality in a way that attempts to force blame on them. So be aware if that's what's happening, and that will happen over and over and over again as you begin to use these tools. If you're moving out of the one world religion of blame into the religion of responsibility, then it's going to take time. It's not an automatic thing. You're going to have to build some brain cells. So that's the beginning point of responsibility communication. The next step, here's where you're going to lay out the subjective observations, your perception. If perceptions are based in fear and or hostility, they are reflections of your own diseased mind and are based on corrupt data. In this condition, the mind is always lying. The mind does not hold the truth, it blames. And of course, life would be so much easier if I could just stop blaming you. Or, if I just send you away, then my pain will be gone. No, it won't. if you send the person away who is the master at triggering your pain and giving you that gift, you're going to have to go to work and find somebody else to do it because you're so deeply dissociated from yourself, from the content of your own mind. So the offering here is there is no truth in a blaming mind. It is the father of liars. There is no truth in it. So when you get down to the subjective observations, the idea here is to identify, own, and isolate the false perceptual constructs, the parts in your own mind that are in need of healing. That's the objective of this work, or this particular tool. At this stage, it can be helpful to identify the goals that are driving your diseased perceptions and the thought disorders and emotions being activated by the need to engage in forgiveness. So when those things are starting to move in you, that's when you want to start to utilize the forgiveness process. So what's required in doing this responsibility communication in particular step? I've got to learn to language in a way that reflects my awareness that I'm describing my reality, the perceptual construct of my mind, my thoughts, my feelings, and recognize that I'm 100% responsible for them. Now remember that your perceptual mind, when you're stepping out of the projection world, when you're stepping out of the blame game, you have a story about what somebody else did and how what they did is the cause of your pain. And you'll notice you've been telling this story all of your life. And if I want to face a core issue, I'm going to have to totally and completely change the way I think about it. And so this can be a place where you can show some vulnerability and ask for support. I realize that I need support in owning and healing my pain. And recognize that if you're never honest with yourself, that you're the cause of your pain rather than a reflection of your pain. If you refuse to move in that direction, you will forever live in your mind's "why is this happening to me again" experience. Remember that with the book, Why Is This Happening to Me Again? Most people think that why is this happening to me again is about what they did to me. The real why is this happening to me again is, why is my mind producing this painful construct again? And yesterday it was about Bill, and the day before it was about Harry, and 20 years ago it was about Mary, and 30 years ago it was about Hortense, and guess what? It'll be about somebody else and somebody else and somebody else tomorrow. So hence my tongue-in-cheek line of, you'll notice we've been through that particular painful reality 87 different times with 42 different people. You're the only one that was there every time. So if you want to escape from the why is this happening to me again, you've got to change the source of the why is this happening to you again. And the source of the why is this happening to you again is inside of you. It's not outside of you. We're not looking to change them. We're not looking to problem solve out there. So with the mind's lie, people have held their pain content below the threshold of awareness in the unconscious, in carbon-based memory. And if I've used false perception and blame to keep that hidden, what I'm doing now is I'm choosing to communicate, to transfer, to share intact the reality in need of healing that's in my mind. Remember yesterday we defined communication as the ability to take a construct that's in my mind and transfer it intact into another person's mind, so another can understand the construct that I'm living with between my ears. That's communication. And as I said yesterday, most people never use communication skills. They use words, but not for communication. You know, it's like the person has a car, and the car's meant for traveling, but they never use it to travel. They just use it to go out and run over their lawn and pack their lawn down, not using it for what it was intended. So if I keep using projection language about you made me mad and you made me sad and you hurt me, and why can't you just be different? Oh, I'm such a victim. Why don't you change? That's the way to keep your untoward reality structures and content below the threshold of awareness. And then false perceptions, constructs made out of those unconscious dynamics, are kept hidden by blame. So what I'm looking to do now is to change that lifelong habit. And again, it's not an easy habit to change. It takes some serious practice. I remember one year in intensive, we had a mother and a daughter there, and the daughter was, the mother was going to do responsibility communication with the daughter, and the daughter spoke to the mother about what you always do to me, and the mother was just like, I never do that. And then we went to the responsibility communication process, and the mother did, I mean, virtually word for word, exactly what the daughter had said she does all the time, and the mother had absolutely no awareness until we pulled up conscious language, and it was a shocker for her. So again, my objective in using words in this process is not to win, not to fix you, not to fix me, not to get what I want from you, not to gain something, but to transfer and share intact the reality in me that's in need of healing. If I'm externalizing with my language, I will not perceive correctly. Now, it's a challenge to remember that this perceptual construct is of my mind and has nothing to do with the event that I laid out in step 2, except that the event was a trigger. And I'll open the space. Is this, am I going at a speed with a depth of explanation that makes sense for everybody? Are there any questions as we move into this? If so, push 1. Jeannie, feel free to interrupt me if somebody's got a question at any stage we're at, and we'll see if we can remedy the way I explain it so that it becomes understandable.
Nobody has a hand up, but this is perfect. I had gotten an email from someone, and they were like, add me to your mailing list, and how do I apologize to my girlfriend? I have broken up with her. So I'm going to send him a link to today's show because it's perfect.
Cool. Awesome. So once again, the goal here isn't to change them, isn't to fix a situation, isn't to get something that you want. The goal is to own and admit that you have an issue, to own your reality, not to prove that they have a problem or that your reality is true about them. And a good tool in this particular step or this particular phase of the communication can be to ask your partner, especially if your partner is kind of pulling away as this conversation is going on, ask your partner to share or read back to you using your tone of voice and attitude what it is you're saying to them. That can be a powerful feedback mechanism. So again, that's the subjective observation. What can a What's my perception? What's my mind's construct around this? And then step 4, now most people, again, use what they call communication for anything but communication. They use it to get what they want, to control others, to manipulate, to win, all sorts of things. So step 4 takes me into the acknowledgement that what I want to do first is to heal. You remember from the Course in Miracles that you must become aware of the distorting power of the way you want it to be. As long as you're holding on to a goal, well, okay, I'll do this silly responsibility communication stuff, but they better change. And I'll just say that over the years of working with people direct, doing this as a practicum, live, the person who's in such a hyper state of arousal and hostility toward another person when they start using responsibility communication, I mean, the shift of energy that takes place is just monumental. If you do this step, what I want first is heal. Now, that doesn't mean that you give up or you don't ever want to problem solve. But what you'll find is most times the problem solving had nothing to do with the healing process. And if you heal, the problem is automatically solved in many cases. I'm not saying all the time, doesn't mean there aren't going to be things to be worked through, but do the healing work first. Then, if there's problem solving to be done, then do the problem solving. So my request here in step 4 always relates to receiving support in healing my issue in number 3. So let go of the problem solving, let go of figuring it out or trying to get them to change. Are you willing to be supported? Now, if this tool is used to manipulate them into change, it'll backfire, I promise you. If you'll use it the way we're describing it, it will bring monumental healing. Healing that you didn't know that you even needed till you started to tell the truth. The more specific I am in identifying my painful reality, the more powerful each step will be in creating healing. And remember that, the tip here is remember to be responsible for what surfaces if you don't get the support you want. This person, when you say, gee, I have this painful reality, I'd like your support in healing it, might just go, oh, good. I'm glad you got a painful reality. Let me see if I can help you pick up another one or two. Okay? So once again, you step into responsibility. So what part of me is inviting this kind of response? And what you'll find is another opportunity to heal, another opportunity to deal with your issues and move through them. So again, step 4 is, I have an issue, and what I want is healing. And I'm asking for your support. Number 5, then, in the 7-step process is to ask, do you have any ideas? Then actually listen to them. There's an interesting thing in nature. Wherever there is a toxin or a poison, nature always provides the antidote to it in the immediate environment. Where there's poison ivy, there's always the antidote to the poison ivy. And I would offer that the person who energetically, through resonance, knows how to bring up your deepest hurts is probably the person who has the exact recipe for the salve that you need to heal. Now, people have to get off their high horse about how, well, it's all your fault, and I'm only upset because of you. You see, I only hung up the phone because you were so upset. Well, actually, I just said, hey, we're right in the middle of a process. Please stay, stay, stay. Don't hang up, stay. Oh, they hung up the phone. Why? No desire for truth. Maybe a surface mind's desire for truth, the pretense I want truth, but too much of the unconscious dynamic that's been dissociated from is coming to the surface. And got to go, got to get out of here. If you have this strong urge to get out of there, take another breath and stick with the process. And you're going to get a chance to let go of the blame and how your mind can creatively fabricate a whole reasoning system for why that person over there is the problem, and you recognize that the thing I want to run from, the thing I want to escape from is what's inside of me. And the fact that I can't control you by convincing you that you're to blame with my brilliant mind is why somebody wants to escape from that kind of a process. So the next step then is you step into humility and you ask, do you have any ideas? And then you actually listen to them as if they were intelligent and let go of the solution that your brain already has. Remember, your mind, your perceptual constructs with its projections already knows the answer, already knows what they should be doing. Cancel that, get rid of it, dump it, and make a space to do your own work. If I'm in pain, I have a thought disorder, and I'm in blockage of truth. And I need healing, and I need to admit that. So in step 5, you ask this question with an open mind, and you listen. You quiet your mind and actually listen. Rather than, I'm in here making it up about what I'm going to say next and how I'm going to get them to change and how it's going to be different, actually shut all of that down and actually listen to the person you've asked for support. And again, they probably have energetically the solution that you need. Listening is an important component of communication. It literally dissipates the energy that a lot of people get stuck in with upset. So give yourself the space to at least temporarily think and act as if what is being offered to you by this other person that you've been blaming will work. It takes a great deal of learning to move into this conversation. So once that person offers what support they have, if they're willing, again, they might say, good, I'm glad you're in pain. Let me see if I can give you a little more. But my experience is that, the blame game, when people are brought up with power persons that are blamers, the sensitivity to being blamed is outrageous. And my take is that when one truly, actually owns what's going on inside themselves and languages responsibility for that, most people are ready to rush right in and help. That's what most humans do. It calls forward human life and opens a space for monumental support and healing. So once this person might say, well, we just went to that why is this happening to me again workshop, and we've got this forgiveness tool. Why don't we sit down and do a worksheet together? I'll support you in doing a worksheet. So now this person's stepping into a space of honoring you and supporting you in your forgiveness process. So you complete that worksheet. Let's say so you're at step 5 and you've gotten this suggestion that we do a worksheet. So you sit down and you do that worksheet. Ask, any more ideas? No, that's all I have in mind. So then there's a space, and it takes some patience to do this, there's a space for you to insert in the conversation what you think might help. Now remember, the objective is healing, not problem solving. So when you offer what you think would help, it isn't time to blast them, tell them what they did wrong and how they need to change to fix it. This is where you ask for a specific type of support that you feel you need that might assist you in moving through your healing process. Remember, once again, the whole idea of this process is healing. Not winning, not getting what you want. Not overpowering, not bullying. So once you've received their ideas and acted upon them, then offer thoughts that you have as to what you see might enhance your healing process. What might be beneficial for you from your point of view. And if you've done this responsibly, then quite probably they're going to support you. And then the seventh step is, if necessary, now that healing's underway, use problem solving to handle the effect aspect of the situation. So I choose to make sure to continue my healing work if that's appropriate, and to use this step where necessary. And if you truly choose to heal your life, you've got to heal first and problem solve last. So that's where the process of responsibility communication happens and how the process is done. So remember that each word and behavior expressed and impacting an energy field is a frequency that's vibratory in nature. Each vibration, each frequency is an extension, a reflection, or we could say an actual energetic appendage of a thought. And these thoughts profoundly alter the state of physiology. So there's a short window into responsibility communication and the steps of that process. And it looks like we've got about 20 minutes left. Jeannie, do you have any other thoughts to add to that? Along the lines of what you were sharing earlier?
No, that's perfect. And I just sent the person an email and told them to download the show and forward to the second hour, and that would be a good starting point.
Cool. Awesome. So if you're out there in listener land and you're on one of those stations where we can't see you, our call-in number is 563-999-3581, 563-999-3581. If you call that number, you'll be looking at the show. Listening to the show, and then if you have a question or comment, you push 1. That will raise a hand in the control panel, and you and I will be having a conversation. So, Miss Jeannie, do we have anybody in the phone queue with a hand up, or anything happening in the chat room? Awesome. Let's say hello.
It's 541. I think this might be Celinda here on the air.
Yes, it is. I had a question to ask you about what you were saying. If you were doing this communication process with someone that you had an issue with, and what you kept perceiving, even though you did your very best to use I languaging and to own the issues as yours, that the other person was in a position where they were unable to support you, how would you deal with that? If they
Say it again. Say it again. I missed a sentence. Your voice isn't very loud, Celinda, and I missed a sentence. You started out with the question, how? Could you repeat that?
Yeah. How would you discern if you were doing the very best you could possibly do at the level you were at to own your issue and to communicate it in a way that they were that you both agreed you were on the same page about the event, and then you went into asking for support, and your gut level feeling or your perceptions, your energy that you perceived is that they are unable at that time because they're still heavily into blame and goal seeking of changing something or someone else. And it's a long-standing issue. Can you give me some direction on that? How to find out if my perceptions are valid, and is it wise at any time to stop a process? That's my question. Since you know that I have power person control issues, I want to be very clear that I am clear and I am being honest about my issues and my projections. The point I guess I'm talking about is then safety, or a sense of how do I still center myself and how best to respond when every, I don't even know how to say this, but you know, the intuition and the insight that I think I'm having is that that other person is not ready to be supportive. I don't even know how to explain it. When is it their stuff and I'm just perceiving that and owning my stuff? And when is it my stuff, and how would I know when it's their stuff and I am owning my stuff? That's my question, and I know it's very hard to get into words.
Michael, you're talking, but not through the phone.
Thank you. I'd hit my mute button so I could hear you a little better. So here, it's really very, very easy to tell whether it's my stuff or their stuff. Do I have any form of disturbance going on that I'm experiencing? It's my stuff.
It's funny.
Doesn't matter what they're doing. They can be standing there screaming, raging, yelling, cursing, doing everything possible. Am I in a disturbed state? Then that's my issue, and that's what I want to be responsible for. And when I'm asking for that support, you remember I said as I was laying out the steps, so I'm asking her for support. If I don't get it, if this person says, I'm glad you're in pain, I'm glad you're in upset, that's exactly what I intended, and here, let me see if I can inflict a little more. That's where you stop and you go to the next level of, okay, so they're not going to play, they're not going to participate in this, and I ask myself the question, how does that look like my life? How does that result haunt me all the time? And recognize that if it's something that haunts me all the time, that's the next level and the next piece of my own work.
Yes, because what I'm thinking of is safety issues. So that would be my next worksheet. But
that would be your next worksheet. Exactly. That was exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah, and if in that moment I am feeling physically, mentally, or emotionally unsafe, what I'm asking is, what is the best, most loving response that I can give by being love in that situation? Because I'm going to feel the tension if I feel unsafe. So how do I respond in the most responsible way for that?
So if we were in an intensive and you asked that question, I would turn to the board with my marker and I'd write as large as I could write all of the above. I'm going to use every tool that I've got. So it might mean that, and this person might just snicker and laugh in my face at my pain and be callous and cold about it. So that's when I'm going to stop and go, what tool do I have? What's coming up in me as I'm experiencing a construct in my mind that this person is callous and cold. The best tool I know for that is the commitment. So what I'm going to do now is speak the commitment to them. My experience is, my perception is, and what I'm going to do is respond with, I promise to trust you enough to tell you the truth, treat you lovingly, gently, and with respect, in my thoughts, my words, and my actions, whether I'm in your presence or not. In every interaction, I'm going to surrender to love, our true nature, and remember that my connection to my source and my relationship with you is more important than any issue. So I'm going to use the commitment. I might choose, if there's a lot of disturbed energy in the space.
Right. You said, but I would say that to them. And if that situation, because you have mentioned yourself, there are times when someone who's really into power or into control would escalate for them their desire to punish or whatever. I'm asking about, when would I just remove myself and say, I need to take a break and then go do the tool myself? Or would I say it to them? How do I know?
Well, I think,
it's real safety issues.
So we can give some guidelines, but ultimately remember that the bottom line objective of this work and the bottom line realization is, the only teacher that will always tell you honestly where your process is going and what you need to do is inside of you. So, yeah, we can give you some guidelines, but you're going to have to listen to your guidance and develop your connection to your own source, so that you're guided, so that you know that, if I start to speak the commitment to them, they're going to go stark raving mad. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just excuse myself and go get a glass of water and breathe, go to the mirror and do the commitment with myself, because I'm really feeling a lot of frustration, and then come back with, well, what came up with me, when I experienced it. Now I'm going to go through the responsibility communications process again, and I'm going to arrive at the place where I realize I have a lot of frustration, and what I'm looking for is support in healing my frustration. Do you have any ideas? And the Course in Miracles has a really wonderful way to measure your own progress toward the ultimate goal of this work. And it's a two-part test. The first part of the test says, when I think of this person, am I at peace? And if you can say yes, then you're rocking. You've just gone through the first 25% of confirming that your healing process is underway. Now, if you want to do the other 75%, then you ask yourself the question, as I'm experiencing that peace, does this person who I yesterday had a conflict with share my perfect peace? And if they don't, I've got my next level of work to do. Because nothing comes to me without my choice. Nothing happens that I didn't engage in and participate in. Course says, deceive yourself no longer, that you are helpless in the face of what is done to you. Acknowledge that you have been mistaken, and all effects of your mistakes will disappear. It is impossible that a happening can come to you that is outside of your choice. And so there may be, and if you recognize you've got a history of pain and trauma and conflict and unsafety, there's going to be layer upon layer upon layer upon layer, where you're going to be called upon to speak to and of yourself, to and of this other person, lovingly, gently, and with respect. And when you can't, that's your next forgiveness project.
Say I can. because this is where what I hear you saying is that you have a guidance system. I have a guidance system. I've known that for a long time, and I've used it at times, and any time I haven't, I've gotten myself in deep kimchi. I understand that totally. So say I am still speaking lovingly, feeling that, compassion and the qualities of love flowing through me, and I, at the same time, feel unsafe. Is that when I remove myself sufficiently and ask to be shown and then do my work? It's not a permanent
that
thing.
would be
It could be just a calming thing for me and a supportive. I'm going to have to support myself until I find out whether I am going to be able to be supported by that particular person or not, or whether I need to find support somewhere else with someone else, maybe about that issue. But that would be after asking Rufa.
So that's one option. And the other option might be, as I'm working toward owning what's going on for me, what is becoming apparent to me, or at least what I'm experiencing, and this may or may not be true, is that this is really creating some disturbance for you, in you. And if that's true, I want to be responsible for my part in it and step into the healing process with you. Is there anything you feel like you need to share with me? And open the space for them to perhaps, now that you've modeled responsibility communication, you may find that people around you will tend to step into responsibility communication. As long as you go, oh, I'm not safe because look at that violent look on your face. I got to get out of here and take care of myself. How does that look? Ask yourself the question, how does that look like your life? And if that's what looks like your life, then that's your next healing project. And the ego, remember, with its hostility and fear and projections, is relentless. It's relentless in its game of blame. Those who are card-carrying members of the one world religion of blame are very, very dedicated, very religiously committed people to their blame game. And as you withdraw from that, it's going to create some complexities in relationships. It's going to create some complexities in interaction.
Well, I'll tell you, Michael, that I have gotten more and more and more subtle with the blame game as I'm attempting to heal, and I am doing, quote unquote, the right steps as best I can, because my heart knows that's the direction to go. And my ego will get so subtle, so incredibly subtle in its blame game. I am just amazed.
Oh, yeah, it's tricky. It's a great deceiver. That's why it's always to ask the question, what's moving in me? How can I tell what's moving in me? I'm feeling it, and you can't feel anybody else's. When you want to tell somebody else that they're to blame for what's moving in you, notice that you're lying to yourself. The desire for truth is not alive in a person who's doing that.
I really appreciate this. I just went out and got copies made of the 14-page deep, detailed power person worksheet. And I looked at it and I thought, oh my goodness, I'm going to be working on this for the rest of my life. So I'm
it really unravels it, doesn't it?
And I'm taking it, like with the addictions and stuff, I think I could mark every single one of them. And the other one that I forget what it is, with all of those different boxes to check, I didn't look at it really clearly, but I wouldn't be surprised if I marked every one of them too. And the part of the worksheet that is one of the two parts of your worksheet that are the most powerful for me is one, what is my punishment thought? Besides the goal, of course. What is my punishment thought?
And while you're holding that
when
thought, are they safe?
Oh, are they or me, either one, because my
They.
punishment thoughts, are they safe? No, they aren't safe if it's towards them, but if it's towards me, they're probably not safe either, are they? Because I'm certainly
Probably
not.
That's the energy. Yeah, I mean, it's shifting the whole energy system.
And the second, so the goal, of course, is most important, related to the thoughts and the emotions and stuff, and the story. And then the punishment thought, because obviously I'm in a blame and shame game at that moment because it's all about something out there. And then when I go through the rest of it, the next question that is the most important to me is when have I ever done the same? And it's like bingo every time, Jeannie and Michael. It's like all of my life.
Yep.
You know, and then it's that little box we check about am I willing to do a mass canceling that just segues right into that.
All the
box.
goals for everybody.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
It's, so I'm I'm the tortoise. I'm very slow, and I'm very thorough, and so, and I'm very committed, and I'm very persistent. And so I say I'm persistent because I am.
Well, I get from your language, when I think about that last conversation we had on the show about the blockage of truth issue and how you received that, I give you an A for making monumental progress. So good work.
Well, you know, I don't even remember how I received it. And Larry's been helping me. He keeps saying, live in the moment. Don't lock yourself in the past. Don't try to lock yourself in the future. And but he says it in such a different language that sometimes we have to really, both of us really struggle to understand that what we're actually saying is we're both on the same page, but we can't seem to find a way to communicate it.
Right. You might want to go back and re-listen to that show. You might want to go back and re-listen to that last show. The one where we talked about your personal code evaluation and the number one challenge being honoring truth.
Oh, yeah, and I've come to a lot of peace about that since then. Because
But you might find listening to that again useful.
I did listen to it again. I did listen to it again.
Good.
And I was thinking of listening to it again. So that's good.
That's what I'm suggesting.
Anyway, yeah, thank you. And
all right, well,
I'm slow.
You're rocking.
So,
all right, well, Blog Talk is talking in my ear saying we're finished, so they're going to cut us off. So I'm going to say thank you for your questions, your search, and your work, and everybody have the best year yet of your eternal life, and blessings. Bye-bye.